I feel different. Do I look different to you guys? Hey there everyone, Afrodo Reviews here, helping you decide, is that book worth reading over second breakfast, or does it deserve the fiery pits of Mount Doom? So let's decide. Today's book is a special little thing known as Minecraft: The Island, an officially approved Mojang product written by Max Brooks. Yes, the same guy who wrote World War Z. Honestly, strange choice for author, but you can't deny his credentials. It was published on July 18th of 2017 and was a New York Times bestseller, followed up with its sequel, Minecraft: The Mountain, published on March 2nd, 2021. Though this gets a bit iffy since the sequel is technically the 7th of the official Minecraft novel lexicon, but from everything I could find, and based on some of the synopsises I read, the lexicon is more of a series of disconnected stories. This book does, however, have the distinction of being the first official Minecraft novel that was announced at Minecon. As far as I could find, it has won no awards to its name, though appears to be relatively well received online. Here's the report card. But with that out of the way, let's get started on the book. And where do we start? Well, where we always do. The cover. Honestly, I love the cover. It's a nice stylized cover. You got a beautiful blend of colors, all set within the outline of a Steve shape, portraying the well-known blocky landscape of the titular island. The contrast of these vibrant colors with the pitch black of the background, with some of the letters in blue and some of them in white, all just creating this nice blend that just flows well together. It's just, mwah! It's glorious. But on to the synopsis. Now, for those of you who did not see my TBR, I read the synopsis on the back aloud. If you haven't watched that, I recommend checking it out, though not only to get the direct synopsis, but to get an idea what I'll be doing for the rest of the month. However, for a quicker synopsis for the sake of this review, this book is about an unnamed protagonist who is summoned into the Minecraft world, detailing their struggles as they desperately attempt to learn how to not only survive in this world, but learn valuable lessons along the way, and eventually do more than simply survive. And really, that's all this book is about. The synopsis definitely tries to make it sound more exciting, but it's not. Well, let me actually start the review before I discuss what's wrong with it. Honestly, I kind of wish I was there for the pitch meeting when Max Brooks sold this book idea to Mojang. Because this book is effectively just a Minecraft fanfiction isekai being sold as an official product. And I'm not saying that lightly, I promise. Literally everything about this book reads like someone writing themselves into one of those fanfiction isekais where they're suddenly transported into the world but have no concrete memory of their previous world, even though they can instinctively remember several aspects of it, such as the technology, historical events and periods, references, and so on. The book is also super aware that it's taking place in a game universe, and that ultimately leads to one of my biggest issues with it. Now look, I'm not saying that the book shouldn't have utilized the mechanics of the Minecraft world in some way, because it should have, at the very least as a wink and nod. But what I mean by this is due to the fact that it's taking place from the POV of someone from our world who was put into the Minecraft world, constant attention is brought to the fact that the rules of this world are very game-like. I've experienced a fair amount of Minecraft media in the past. Specifically in this instance, I'm going to use the Minecraft Story Mode by Telltale Games to prove a point. Now, this was a game written by the masters of storytelling themselves, Telltale, obviously. And it took place in the Minecraft world. And in that game, the world of Minecraft exists as it does, but it's treated as the normal standard of that world. You got creatures disappearing in a puff, the red highlights as creatures get hurt, the crafting menus, all of that. But the story itself never once acknowledges the weirdness of it, allowing for the meta-narrative itself to make the jokes and to notice the strangeness of what's going on. Sometimes it results in great moments that make you laugh. Other times it results in unintentionally hilarious moments that make you laugh when they're supposed to be sad or somber. But the one thing I can say about it is that it was consistently immersive in its setting. But in this book, the amount of times the main character references how odd things are and how it doesn't work like that in the real world, and the oddity of the fact that they have painted on clothes, how nothing has joints, it just made me painfully aware that I'm reading a book about a protagonist who's been isekai'd into a video game. Honestly, I would say reading this book at times is the equivalent of trying to have my technologically deaf mother try to learn how to play this game with no guides or hints. Trust me, that is a very painful experience. Love you, Mom. Honestly, to lump further on this point, I actually got confused at several points if the book was faithfully following game logic or was trying to make genuine logic from our real world and apply it to the game. For example, there are times when it follows the game logic to a T, despite stuff. This includes characters never feeling tired despite swimming and sprinting for long periods, the never having to go to the bathroom, food never spoiling despite not being stored properly, literally being unable to sit down, small stuff like that. But then on other things, it just starts to get creative. Like, instead of just flashing red when they get hurt, the main character's injuries are described in full detail, getting stuff like a sprained ankle, shattered ribs, scorched flesh, teeth that shatter when being punched, so on. Or he even suffers that sprained ankle for several chapters, and it actually impedes their ability to walk, despite the fact that in the game, no such injury exists unless you're playing on like a modded server. Because I do remember playing on this modded server once, where it's a zombie apocalypse, and if you get bit, you gotta cut off your own leg, and you kind of hobble for the rest of the game unless you get a prosthetic. I don't remember what it was called, but if that sounds familiar, everyone comment down below what the server was. But anyways, lava hurts to even get near because it's so hot. Food has taste. Armor dents and scraps with every hit it takes, and despite looking perfectly fine in the game. Night not immediately skipping once you've gone to sleep. Smaller stuff like that. But then you also have stuff in the middle, where I can't tell which way it's trying to lean, like the day and night cycle. In the book, it's acknowledged as being strangely short, making me think that, okay, so it's using the actual 7-minute day, 7-minute nights from the game. You know what? That's understandable. But then you bring things like our hero's sleepiness into question. They go for about a week without having to sleep before suddenly they start to get affected by a mental fugue because they're not sleeping. Now, if we're using in-universe logic, that doesn't make sense. They went a full week without sleeping before suffering any of the ill side effects of doing that. Which means by that point, they should be dead on their feet. Like, I think the longest you can go without sleeping is 3 days. And I think if you go any further than that, you start doing serious damage to yourself. And that's not assuming that 3 days does damage to you. So if we use, if we use the in-universe logic that the days are as long as our days, but it's sped up for our perception and purposes, it doesn't make sense. But if you use the actual logic that it actually is 7 minutes for day and night, it still doesn't make sense. Because even after a week, our main character, and I did the math here, let me find it. Hey there, just wanted to make a slight correction here. It turns out that upon further research, the day-night cycle of Minecraft is actually 10 minutes long. 10 minutes for day, 10 minutes for night. However, this doesn't necessarily make my point invalid. It's just a simple 6-minute difference, where instead of the time that I originally had, which was 98 minutes, it's actually closer to 140. Now, this changes the time that our main character would have been awake from a little over an hour and a half to a little over 2 hours. However, my point still stands about the fact that if our main character had been awake for about this long in universe, it still would have been very insignificant compared to a real-world person needing sleep. So there's that correction. I just wanted to be factual about it instead of just leaving it in this air. So that was definitely confusing. But then there's also random things that aren't in the game and don't make sense but are never explained. At one point, the mobs get randomly stronger and take twice as much effort to unalive And that's promptly forgotten after some time. Why were they getting stronger? It honestly was just there to be a random, what's going on moment. But in reality, nothing about it makes sense. And it's not acknowledged after it's briefly brought up. There's also a brief moment where our protag thinks gold armor must be better than iron, because it's rarer. Only to immediately realize after he makes it, oh, I'm wrong, it's flimsy. And tosses it. And it's just one of those, that was such a pointless scene, you could probably just nix it and save some time. Our protag builds a giant skyscraper home filled with excess and luxury, only to blow it up the next chapter and basically turn several pages of description in the first description of the place into wasted space because they never utilized this as a home beyond the first day. Truthfully, this was just kind of a mess of a book. It's not even that interesting to read, honestly, because a great majority of it comes off like a guide of how to play Minecraft. And I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone who hasn't already played Minecraft is going to pick this up. Furthering that, it tries to come off as a lesson guide. A little bit way through the book, it almost seems to switch and start hinting that this is a book within a book. And you're reading the journal left behind. Spoiler, that's exactly what it is. And while the lessons are good and are meant to be applied to in real life, they can come off as a bit pretentious at times, especially with how heavy-handed it is. And this is probably because the book goes back and forth in trying to handle adult themes. Like, okay, you got chapters that are flat out just named, always be aware of your surroundings. That's very heavy-handed, and it's so simple that you kind of like, okay. But then you have the author trying to explore the effects of isolation on the mind, as our main character is like full-blown loony at the end, as he has full-on conversations with the Minecraft cows and sheep, despite the fact that the book very much portrays them as still just the dumb, neutral mobs that they are. So they never once, earn that acknowledgement of being, smarter than normal, or even acknowledging his presence beyond when he has, the food for them. It's just like, it's one of those, you can't watch as our main character slowly goes insane from isolation, next to tantrums never help, guys. Those are just, I feel like those lessons and themes kind of don't mix very well together. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm overthinking it, but yeah. All in all, I'd give this book a 5 out of 10. This book, above all else, was honestly just kind of a bore. Once the novelty of reading a Minecraft book wears off, you quickly realize you're just kind of reading someone's first attempt at Minecraft, but with no interesting twist and the constant immersion breaking as the narrative acknowledges how odd the Minecraft world is from our own. Honestly, if this book wasn't only 260 pages long, I might have DNF'd it because it was just boring after a certain point. I was just reading it to finish it about halfway through. But the real question, does it deserve Mount Dew? Yes. I know this is for kids, but honestly, I don't even think it's for kids. I think it would only apply to kids who've never played before, because if you have played it before, you'll find yourself bored with a great deal of the book, which reads a lot more like a guide to playing Minecraft at best, and watching someone who's never touched a game in their life trying to learn Minecraft at worst. It constantly breaks its own immersion by acknowledging the oddity of the world that would be created if it followed game mechanics in real life, but then doesn't stick to the same rule on several other points, making you wonder why even bother to follow it on these things but not these things. The character never goes beyond his isolated island home for most of the book, never delves into interesting places like the Nether or the End, and doesn't even meet an Enderman till near the end of the book. It's just honestly not a good read, and I don't recommend it for anyone. Reading this book has put me in a bit of a mood to take a nice, relaxing train ride through the Orient. But for some reason, I get the feeling that there's going to be a murder on this Orient Express. But until then, remember, with every book comes an adventure, and every adventure is worth having, even the bad ones.